Could Puka Nacua break the NFL's single-season receiving yardage record? An NFL legend seems to think he's the most likely player in the league to do it. On today's show, we're going to talk about what Calvin Johnson had to say about Puka Nacua, and we're going to project his possible stats. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Rams Report presented by Prize Picks, guys. And if you think that on today's show, or this season, Puka Nacua can break the NFL's receiving yardage record, drop a like on today's show. I need to see at least 250 likes. I know there's 250 Rams fans that believe in Puka Nacua's ability to go out there and get this done the same way Megatron does, guys. That's right. Matthew Stafford's old buddy, Calvin Johnson, was hosting a charity golf tournament recently, and it was over the weekend. And at it, he was asked about who in the league he believes is most likely to break his receiving yardage record. He also talked about Cooper Kupp coming incredibly close to doing so back in 2021, saying he actually thought Cooper was going to do it. But he said if you had to pick one player actively in the league to do it right now, it would be none other than our guy, Puka Nacua. Here's what he had to say. He said he's still got Matthew, so I think he's got a shot. If he stays healthy, that dude's a killer out there. That would be kind of dope. I'd have to go to that game if he did that because I like Puka. He's getting some crap out of his system, but that's just a young guy just learning. I think he's an awesome, dynamic receiver. And guys, I could not agree more with everything that Calvin Johnson had to say there. I could not agree more. I truly feel that if there is one receiver in the NFL right now that is capable of doing it, not just because of the talent he has, but also because of the situation he's in, because of Matthew Stafford, who Calvin Johnson mentioned and obviously knows quite well, and who we'll discuss his role to play in that a little bit more later on today's show. But just the player that Puka is and has proven himself to be over the first couple years of his career. My God, guys. Last season was really the revelation point, I think, for the rest of the NFL of who Puka is. I think they kind of knew already. 11 games in 2024, he goes for 990 yards. Obviously, he broke the rookie receiving yardage record, But I don't think there was a perception outside of LA Rams fans and people who really, really know the NFL that Puka was a top 5 receiver before last year. And I think he really has asserted himself as undeniably not just a top 5 receiver, but I think for everybody in the NFL, you have to give him top 3 positioning. I still say he's the number 1 receiver in the NFL. I'm not really listening to other arguments, but I think he is unanimously top 3 at this point. I don't think saying he can break this record is just because I'm a biased Rams fan at the end of the day, right? Look how close he was last year. 16 games, he averages 107.2 yards per game. The record average is 115.5. That is what you need to get to in a 17-game season to break Calvin Johnson's record. 115.5 yards per game. He was just over 8 yards away per game from doing that. That is just a few more yards. Puka is absolutely capable of doing it. But 2026 might be his best shot to do it. I don't want to say it's his last shot to do it, but I truly think it is the best chance he'll have in his career to break Calvin Johnson's record. And we're going to talk about why that is coming up in just 1 minute here, guys. But before we do, I've got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is Prize Picks. Guys, if you love daily fantasy sports or you just want to add more excitement to watching sports, you've got to get started with the rest of us here at Chad Sports on America's #1 sports picks app, and that's Prize Picks. Plus, it's a great time to get started on Prize Picks, too, with the World Cup underway, guys. It's so easy to put together a lineup on Prize Picks. All you have to do, my friends, is pick from 2 to 6 players. You are selecting more or less on their stat projections, whether you're picking from points, assists, rebounds, hits, home runs, shots on target, goals, assists, and in soccer. They've got plenty of options from all your favorite sports. Plus, they also have awesome social features that allow you to easily tail or fade your friends or your favorite creators, including me, guys. I'm Jackson Durham with no spaces on Prize Picks. If you want to look up my username and drop a follow on my lineup, you can see all of the Prize Picks lineups I've been placing recently and tail or fade with just one click. And if you're brand new to Prize Picks, make sure you use our promo code. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. As always, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to why this might be the best chance that Puka has to win, or to not win, I guess, to break Calvin Johnson's record. Because this could be the last year of Puka and Matthew Stafford. I'm not telling you it's going to be the last year of Puka and Matthew Stafford, but we just don't know at this point in Matthew Stafford's career. Last season could have been the last year of Puka and Matthew Stafford, depending on the way it finished. I think it's going to depend on that again this season, both from a team perspective and also from Matthew's health perspective. Of course, that's going to play an enormous role in his decision to come back for 2027, which, mind you, even though he did sign that contract, that remains a decision. At the end of the day, Aaron Donald retired with time on his contract. Matthew Stafford could do the same. It is not uncommon. It is not against the rules for NFL players to retire with years on their deal. But again, Matthew finished last season as the NFL MVP. Puka is set up this year to be, in my opinion, and the opinion of many of you, I'm sure, the best receiver in the NFL playing with an MVP at quarterback. That is an undeniably extremely favorable situation. I truly think that there is no receiver in the NFL. You cannot point to a receiver in the NFL that is set up to have more success this season than Puka Nacua is. I really think that's the case. At the end of the day, maybe the only argument is there's a lot of mouths to feed in this Rams offense, but they've proven time and time again that they will feed Puka. And even when Stafford is gone, I think they will continue to feed Puka. But as much as I believe in Ty Simpson, we don't know that he is going to come out and be that guy from day one. That he is going to come out and be what Matthew Stafford has been for this Rams team early on in his career. Or ever at the end of the day. That is the nature of a rookie quarterback. I'm not saying he's not capable of becoming that, but right now it's an unknown. We've never seen Ty Simpson play at the NFL level. We're not going to see Ty Simpson play at the NFL level for a long time. So right now, what we know for Puka Nacua is he is entering an incredibly favorable setup for an incredible season for him. Both from a Stafford perspective, from his own talent perspective, and I also believe, in many ways, despite the Rams' schedule being incredibly difficult, the matchups here favor Puka in a lot of these games. You go game to game throughout this schedule. Week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers, that is a secondary that I feel like Puka can get after, that he's been able to get after in his career. Last season, he wasn't able to go over 100 on the Niners, but he had touchdowns in both of those games and 149 combined yards against the Niners in 2 outings. Week 2 against the Giants, that's another secondary that Puka should be able to tear up. They've signed a couple guys in free agency. They brought in Greg Newsome this offseason. They brought in Paulson Adebo the year before that. But Paulson Adebo not going to match up with Puka Nacua. Greg Newsome not going to match up with Puka Nacua. That is a secondary that he can shred. The one that worries you is week 3. This is the most daunting matchup. And worries isn't even the right word. It's just the most daunting matchup that Puka faces this year. Week 3 against the Broncos, likely, and what we've seen for Puka throughout his career is he's not a receiver that teams like to shadow, and the Rams make it difficult to shadow Puka as well with the way that they move him around. But this is likely a game where Puka is going to be seeing a lot of one-on-one matchups with Patrick Surtain. My opinion, the best corner in the NFL right now. I don't think that's a hot take to say that at all. So we're going to continue rolling through this schedule for the Rams. We're going to continue breaking down all of the matchups for Puka Nacua. Back to the schedule here. Week 4 is another week where you're going to see some all-pro talent at corner. And I do think the combination of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, both of which are highly talented players, they don't quite stack up with a Patrick Surtain. But this 2-week stretch, this is as difficult as any in the season from a Puka perspective. It's also as difficult as any of 2-week stretch for this Rams team from a game perspective. But these are going to be 2 difficult matchups for Puka. He'll likely see a lot of number 2 on the Denver Broncos throughout week 3. And then he's going to see a lot of a combination of pretty talented guys in week 4 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's keep rolling through this Rams schedule, though. Let's keep discussing the matchups that Puka is likely to face as we continue through the season. We get to week 5. We're going to go see the Buffalo Bills. And this begins one of the softer stretches of the schedule, both from a games perspective for this team and also after you get past the Bills, softer for the team. You'll see what I mean here. But from a coverage perspective for Puka's ability to stack up yards and stack up stats here, this is where it starts to begin. The Bills are a team that has never really had that number 1 corner. Over the last couple of years, Christian Benford's kind of been that guy for them, but he is not an elite corner in this league. I don't think by anybody's measuring, maybe other than hardcore Bills fans. Week 6, you see the Arizona Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Corner is a position they're stronger at across the board by their own standards, but again, nobody in that room is stacking up with Puka. Week 7, you get, again, one of the worst teams in the NFL, in the Las Vegas Raiders, a team you can run through and a team that just does not have the talent at corner to match up with Puka. Not even close. Week 8, you get to the Chargers. This is a little bit more challenging, a team that has some talent in the secondary, less so at corner. They've got some young guys at corner, but they do have talent in Derwin James, who moves around all over the place. Whether he's playing safety for this team, he could play nickel corner for this team. He could even shadow Puka if they wanted him to do that. He is the guy you kind of got to worry about in this secondary. The rest of the faces don't really worry you. I feel like Puka should still be able to easily get his against this Chargers secondary. But the fact that they're probably the most daunting of that group tells you a lot about the stretch that we're going through for Puka here. Week 9, you see a Commanders team that is, again, just not there at the corner position. This is a team that just doesn't have that kind of talent at the top end. Week 10, you face the Cardinals again. Once again, you're seeing one of the worst teams in the NFL. Corner not a position where they are one of the worst, but overall talent-wise, this is one of the worst teams in the league. Week 11, you get your bye week finally before a Week 12 matchup against the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. A team that does have solid talent in the secondary, but again, I feel like you should be able to get past them. Week 13 is another one to watch for. This is a game I feel like Puka could shred this opposing Chiefs secondary. They just do not have talent right now in that unit. They moved on from pretty much everybody, and a lot of their guys play here now in Los Angeles. We got Trent McDuffie. We got Jalen Watson. They did draft Mansour Delane this season, but that is a rookie in his first year, and the rest of that room is downright terrible, to completely be honest with you. Puka needs to shred. From week 5 to week 13 needs to be the best stretch of Puka's season. He cannot have, and we saw this at times for Puka last year, and we'll talk about aspects of why he would have games like this, but he can't have any of those 28, 30-yard games that we would see over the last couple of years. They seem to pop up for him. And again, we'll get into the why, because I know some of you guys are going, but there's a reason, and there is a reason. But we can't let any reason, if you want to break a record, stop you from doing that. At the end of the day, the record is the record. It's not the record with any sort of excuse or asterisk on it. But now you enter the final stretch of the season, and it's going to be oh so important that Puka shredded that first week 5 through 13 stretch, because this is where things start to ramp up in difficulty. Week 14, you get the Niners again. Again, we talked about them already. I feel like you can beat that secondary, but they have given Puka issues last season. He did not have over 100 yards against the Niners secondary. Week 15, the Cowboys last year, they were one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. So that is the easy game along this stretch. But then week 16, you see the Seahawks. And I don't like to give this team credit for anything. I'm not going to lie. I really don't. But their secondary, their defense last year was the backbone of that unit. While they did move on from Reek Wolin, Devin Witherspoon remains in that room. That is going to be a daunting matchup for Puka at the end of the day and for this Rams team to begin with. This is the one you look forward to all year long. This is the game that we are looking to tee off on. At the end of the day, Puka should be looking to tee off on that secondary. He did go crazy on them last season, but this is one of the bigger matchups. That is one that could be more difficult. Week 17, you see the Buccaneers, another team that has talent on the back end. Antoine Winfield, one of the best safeties in the NFL. They've got talent at corner as well. And then you finish out the season with the Seahawks again. We just talked about them. That is the matchup you have circled all year long. Again, Puka shredded this Seahawks secondary multiple times last season, but we know the kind of talent they have on the back end, and they will definitely be making adjustments. Again, I don't like to give this team credit, but Mike Macdonald is one of the best defensive coaches in our league. I would be very surprised if he doesn't have some big-time adjustments game planned for Puka after how successful he was against them in the NFC Championship and in Week 16 of last year. But the biggest key for Puka, beyond all of these matchups, I truly feel he is a talented enough receiver that matchups for him at the end of the day, he should be winning against everybody in the NFL. He's the best receiver in the NFL. He should win his matchups against every corner in the NFL. I feel like every matchup should project favorably. The biggest key is health. At the end of the day, the biggest key for Puka is remaining on the field. That's what it's been for the last couple seasons for him. You go back to his days at BYU, his days at Washington before then. He had foot and ankle injuries, cost him, I want to say, 7 or 8 games across his college career. He had a PCL sprain in 2024 that cost him 5 games, and he missed a little time last season as well. He's missed 14 total games since 2019. It's not a monumental amount of time, but any amount of time missed in the 2026 season is going to keep you from threatening this record. At the end of the day, it is a record you're going to need to play. Unless you have a year that Calvin Johnson had in 2012, which he did do it in 16 games, you're going to need to play 17 games to threaten this record. You can't miss time at the end of the day. I mean, we haven't seen anybody get close in the 16-game era to what Calvin Johnson did. So, if you think that Puka can break his record, if he could be the one to finally take down Calvin Johnson's record, drop a like on today's video. I know we've got at least 250 members of the Ramily that believe in Puka's ability to smash this record, to get it done this season. Drop a like on today's video and smash that like button if you are one of those 250, hopefully plus, Rams fans showing that belief on today's video. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. That's going to do it for today. We will see you in the next one. As always, thank you for watching. And as always, let's go Rams.